So, this is all of the major discrepancies I have about the sounds that are judged by the International Phonetic Association to be impossible to produce by human biology in relation to the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA. I would like to start by apologising for the lack of visuals, but I don't really think it matters, just so you have a reference as to what I'm talking about. Also, unless you have a decent knowledge on the International Phonetic Alphabet already, I'd recommend you watch Tom Scott's video, The Language Sounds That Could Exist But Don't. In the event you just can't be bothered, completely understand, so I will tell you that the boxes shaded in grey are not producible, or so says the International Phonetics Association. I will mainly regard the laterals, as that is where my biggest issue lies, focusing on the bilabial and labiodental lateral fricatives and approximants, though mainly the fricatives, as the same rules can be applied to approximants as can be applied to fricatives. Firstly, the definition of lateral in aerodynamics is that airflow goes either side of an obstruction, in this case the tongue, and that is how it has been perceived by the International Phonetic Association when they defined that it was impossible to produce bilabial and labiodental lateral fricatives, and therefore approximants. However, laterals do not have to use the tongue. So, I would say that you could possibly have a bilabial lateral fricative if you exhale air through the corners of your mouth while closing your lips at the centre. Something similar can thus apply to the labiodental lateral fricative and therefore approximant, though not so much if you have gappy teeth, so use braces. And this is where I'd cut into a sponsor if I had one, but I don't, so I won't. I'll spare you the trouble. But more to the point, this is not really a war against these specific definitions of impossible to produce sounds. This is a war against the whole definition of lateral in phonetics and linguistics. I think this video would be dreadfully boring and uninteresting if I had just left it there, though unfortunately I don't have much more to say. I'm also not as confident on my next statement, but I think it should theoretically be possible to produce a glottal approximant, though of course I don't know. I have never tried and I don't want to. If you've undergone some weird and painful surgery, of course it's also possible to probably produce a velar, a tap or trill. But that's obviously more fitting of the extensions to the IPA, as it's not in your usual biology. Now, I am going up against a really large and powerful organisation that has been tempering and perfecting its definitions for roughly a century. So, of course, this is going to be an uphill battle. And I don't think I'm entirely right. I think there may be some areas where I am right under certain light, and the International Phonetic Association is right generally. But I think that we should at least have extensions to the IPA symbols for these sounds. So despite what it may sound like with my talk of war and battle, I'm not against the International Phonetics Association. I would like to correct some errors, though I suppose that was the wrong wording, because I'm not nearly obnoxious or arrogant enough to believe that I, a single human with no formal linguistic training, could perfect, in a sense, this constantly working, constantly perfecting itself organisation, though my grammar wasn't perfect in that sentence. I'm not going to edit it though, because I want this to feel natural, as with all my stutters and that sort of thing. And that is the end. So I hope you enjoyed. As of this moment, this is my only video, so I wouldn't recommend that you like and subscribe or something. Possibly in a year's time, but do what you like, do what you like. I hope that you found this interesting, and I hope it wasn't a total waste of your time. Bye. That's it. Goodbye.